Hello, everybody. Namaste and happy Friday to you. My name is KJ Hamus, and welcome to our Slow Flow Plus Yin class tonight. Tonight, we're going to be working into our hips. So, opening up our hips. A couple props that you might need are blocks or block equivalents, a blanket, and a pillow or a yoga bolster. Again, these are all optional, and they're just to help you really get into your body. And same thing as we go into variations, they're just to help you get into your body. So one is not better than the other. Absolutely take what you need and don't worry about anything else with it. So let's just focus on how the shape feels tonight and see where we get to. So with that said, I'm going to invite you to start in wide-legged child's pose. I'll demonstrate the pose if you're unfamiliar with it, and then I'm going to stay seated just to work us through the meditation because my face into the ground isn't the most helpful. So with this, bring your knees as wide as the mat, big toes to touch, and just start to draw your sit bones back towards your heels. If you notice that the sit bones don't sit directly on the heels, that's perfectly fine and natural to help create a bit more to close that gap or to bring the heels a little closer to the bum. Consider maybe sticking your pillow underneath it or a towel or your blanket underneath there too. That can provide a little additional support. And same thing, your towel or your blanket can also be used to help support your knees. If you find that's too much on the hips, go ahead and bring the knees together and then fold forward that way. Arms outstretched, nice and long. This may help you get a bit more into the low back here. So as we settle into this shape, I invite you to take a deep, slow breath in through the nose. And exhale, open the mouth, sigh it out, let it go. Go ahead and take 2 more deep belly breaths like that on your own, slow and steady. Letting the inhale draw in, expanding the belly, feeling the body activate gently. And then as you exhale out through the mouth, feel as everything starts to release and move toward the midline. Settling into a natural breath to begin, breathing in and out gently through the nose, not controlling anything, not changing anything. As we settle into our practice, we're reminded that this is an ancient practice that has been given to us from our brown and black ancestors from India. Over 5,000 years ago, they sat underneath trees and in caves, on the sides of roads and forests, by lakes, to develop this practice, understand this practice, systemize it, codify it, so we may practice it today. We take a moment and we honor the roots of yoga and all that it has to offer, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and how we can see it manifest itself in our everyday life. So again, we honor our ancestors from India, thanking them for this practice today. And at the same time, we acknowledge that the practice has changed over the centuries. Some of the changes are for good, some of the changes maybe not so good. But we do our best to honor the roots as we study them. As you start to deepen your breath, you'll be coming into your ujjayi breath, breathing in and out through the nose, the soft sound of the ocean at the back of the throat. Feel free, if you're not familiar with this breath, just to take a gentle breath in and out through the nose, letting the breath guide your practice. As you deepen your breath, I invite you to take a full body scan. Start to note where you're at today, how you're feeling, and what is coming with you into the practice, physically, energetically, emotionally, even mentally. Remembering you don't always have to show up perky and happy and positive, you just need to show up. And it's okay if you're tired, if you're grumpy, if you're stressed, anything in between. That's where our practice is at. And hopefully we leave feeling a little bit better, maybe a little bit alleviated. But sometimes there's more to work on here. So if you're bringing any of that with you, show yourself some compassion. Let yourself feel those feelings. And maybe soften the body a little bit more. As you settle into the shape and settle into your breath, I invite you to think about how you manifest perfectionism in your life. Okay? This idea of I need to do things a certain way because that's how society tells me to do it, or my body needs to be a certain way. All of these things that can come across as perfectionist tendencies. Just take a moment to acknowledge the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes with all of that. We all have them. You're in your space, you're in your body, so it's okay to acknowledge it. And then as you're here, visualize a trash can, a bin, something right next to you. And then pick up all of those tendencies that you were just acknowledging, and throw them into the trash can. Let's try and let go of this idea of perfectionism today in our practice, knowing that we don't have to be perfect at anything. So give yourself permission to be imperfect in all the beautiful things that brings with you. And see how, as we move through the practice, that can change the breath. Maybe setting that as your intention now, breathing in, acknowledging I am beautifully imperfect. As you breathe out, I am beautifully imperfect. Because that sense of perfectionism can start to hold us back. When we let go of that, how are we able to set ourselves a bit more free? Take a moment here, several more breaths. Settling into that mantra that calls to you. If it doesn't, that's okay. Just breathe in and out slowly. Maybe saying, I am breathing in, I am breathing out, or just I am. Letting the breath be your guide. And your next inhale, reach the arms out nice and long, maybe cupping the fingers on the ground, feeling the armpits lift off the mat. On your next exhale, use your fingertips to pull your way up into a neutral tabletop shape, taking the adjustments you need to make to stack the hips directly over the knees and the wrists directly underneath the shoulders. Finding our neutral spine, so gently draw the belly button in toward the spine. Again, we're not sucking it in. You still want to be able to breathe and feel the expansion on your belly. Crown of the head reaches forward as your hips reach back. Go ahead and grab on your blocks or your books and place it on your low back, more on the hips here. I'm going to invite you to start on your right hip, but I'm going to demonstrate with my left hip because that's the hip facing the camera at the moment. We're going to work into our hips with our hip rotation. So lift your leg up as you inhale, pressing the foot up to the ceiling at a 90-degree angle. As you exhale, open the knee out to the side as if you're a dog at a fire hydrant. And then inhale, bring the knee back in through center, drawing it into the chest. Find your breath here as you take this movement, trying to keep the black on the low back. You might discover your hips don't open up as much as you think that they should. That's okay. It's all about discovery. It's all about learning. And guess what? If the block falls off, take a moment, smile, laugh at yourself a little bit, and then come right back to it. On your next inhale, draw the knee back in through the chest, and then open it up out to the other direction. So taking your hip circles in the other way. So as we open up the knee out to the side, we're working in an external rotation. As we bring the knee and the foot up, internal rotation. And take 2 to 3 more. And then as you set the knee down, just flip sides here for a second. We're going to open the knee out to the side. So bring the knee back up, the foot up to the ceiling, open the leg out to the side, and lift your knee up so it's directly coming out from the hip. You can take your block off if you'd like. Totally feel free to keep it up there to help you keep your hips level. And just pulse the knee. So we're working into the hip, strengthening it as we open for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Remove the block if it's there, and then slowly draw your knee in towards your chest. And then bring the knees one on top of the other, sitting back. Coming into a cow facing forward legs. Pause here for a moment, working into the outer hips. Take a deep, slow breath in. And a deep, slow breath out. Settle back into the body. Settle back into the breath. You can keep your hands right where they're at. You can bring your hands to maybe a reverse prayer position at the back to feel a little bit of a chest opener. Always feel free to have the fists bump each other at the back. And just draw the shoulder blades down, open up the heart. Allow the chest to open. Let's take 5 slow, deep breaths here. Gently release your hand. Bring your right hand behind your back. Your left arm is going to reach up to the ceiling as you inhale. Then as you exhale, take a gentle twist. So you might feel this a little bit deeper into the outside of the hip. We're also opening up the spine. So even as we reach the crown of the head tall, find where your neutral spine is. And that might take a little bit of practice, a little bit of detective work. That might not all get solved today. So just start to understand the shape in your body and where it's at in this moment. Take one more full breath in here. And a full breath out. As you inhale, come back through center. As you start to take your counter twist, you're going to twist open through the legs, come all the way back around, finding your way to a neutral tabletop once again. I do enjoy taking that twist. I find it just as one of those like fun kid moments in our practice. So pause here, locate your neutral spine, crown of the head forward, hips back. Bring the block onto your back. So there's going to be some core work here too. So keep everything engaged. And you're going to work into your left hip. My right hip is facing the camera, so I'm going to work into that at the moment. So as you're ready, start to take your hip circles, lifting the leg up, press the foot toward the ceiling, and then opening it out to the side, drawing the knee into center. You can take them a little faster, a little slower. Creaks and cracks are perfectly normal. Embrace them. See what they tell you, and see what you're learning about your hips in this. The most important thing is to keep breathing. Take about 2 more in one direction. And then as you're ready, switch directions, working between external and internal rotation. And as you do that, you may notice the differences between the two sides. You might have a deeper external rotation, a deeper internal rotation on one side, perfectly normal. So if you kept your block here for our higher fire hydrant pulses, keep it. If you removed it, go ahead and remove it. Lift your leg out to the side, knee comes up. Draw your right inner thigh toward the center of the mat and pulse for 5, for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Draw the knee into the chest, remove the block, cross it over the other leg, and then sit back. We'll come into our cow facing legs here, and breathe. So again, option to bring your hands behind your back if you'd like. Option to keep them forward. If your hands are behind your back, either in reverse prayer, maybe this time you reach for opposite elbows or let your fists bump. Think about opening the heart, let it shine forward. Find your breath. Three more breaths. Take one more inhale. And exhale. As you inhale, bring your left hand behind your back, right arm reaches up, and exhale, take your twist. So do try and twist from the mid back because that's the part of the spine that can actually twist. If we're twisting anything in our low back, we're actually twisting muscle and tendon and stuff, and we don't want to be doing that. We want to work into the joints. So you might come out of it a little bit. That's okay. And working into the hip while we are opening the spine, you might start to feel a deeper stretch in your left leg. So think about the intention behind the shape. Think about where you're feeling it, and we'll make adjustments accordingly. Take one more breath in, breath out. As you inhale, come back through center, take your twist, and then this time as you twist, come into a wide-legged forward fold. Keep your feet as wide as the mat. Let everything hang nice and heavy down. Maybe you can interlace the hands to place them gently on the head at the navel of the neck. Bent knees are great here. Do try and keep the weight of the hips over the ankles so we can hinge from the hips a little bit more. Take one more breath in, breath out. As you inhale, turn the toes out. And as you exhale, begin to sit on down for Malasana, Yogi Squat. So this is one where you might be going, gosh, I can't do it the way that I see everybody else doing it in class or the way you see me doing it right now. Guess what? That's perfectly okay. We're all different and our bodies are different. So some things we can do. Consider sitting up on a block or two. Lift your hips up on a couple of blocks. That's perfect. Maybe you don't take it as low. Maybe you sit here. This can be where you work. This is where the shape can be at in your body. So listen to yourself. Find your breath here. We're using this to help us just gently open up the hips. And we're going to breathe through this, finding where we can breathe into the challenge. So come back to your mantra. Take one more breath in here. Breath out. Plant your hands on the ground as you inhale. Then your exhale, fold forward once again, nice and slow. Let the hips release. And as you inhale, heel toe the feet, about hips width distance apart, roughly 2 fists width, give or take. You don't want to be smaller than hip width distance. If you're a little bit wider than that, that should be fine. Find your center of gravity, maybe by rocking back and forth. In stillness, shift the weight of the hips over the ankles and hinge here. Let the knees bend if they want to bend. It's always a good idea not to lock the knees. We'll take one more full breath in here. And full breath out. Slowly, as you inhale, begin to roll up one vertebra at a time. Soft bend in the knees. Letting the head be the very last thing to stack. And the knees being the very last thing to straighten. Coming into Tadasana, mountain pose. So we'll find our neutral spine once again. That might mean for you tucking your tailbone down, lifting through the low belly. That might mean you just draw the low ribs together. And explore how that feels in your body. It's going to be different for every person. We'll take one more breath in here. Breath out. As you inhale, reach your arms up overhead. Hands can be shoulders width distance apart, or they can touch. And then as you exhale through a flat back, hinge and fold. Bend the knees as much as you need to. Inhale, lengthen. Hands will travel up the shins, hips back, crown of the head forward. And as you exhale, step your left foot nice and long back. Drop the back knee. We're going to come into Anjaneyasana. Lift the chest up on your next inhale. For this first little bit, let's keep our hands on our thighs. We want to focus this on our left hip flexor, so our front part of our left leg, our quadricep. Feel the hips press forward. Now, for safety reasons, we don't want the knee going too far past the ankle, so you might need to make some adjustments here by walking your right foot forward. While we are hoping to feel this stretch in our left hip flexor, that does not mean you're not going to feel it in your right hip joint. If it's a little too much compression, consider using your hands to spread the flesh away from the joint. See how that feels. We'll take a deep, slow breath in here. And a deep, slow breath out. On your next inhale, curl the toes under, lift the back knee up. Coming into a half high lunge, keep your hands on your thighs. If that's a lot, always feel free to bring your hands down to the ground, then lift up. Listen to your body here. Know that you have this strength no matter where you're at in the shape. This is your shape. So again, for safety, we want to try and keep our knees stacked over the ankle or slightly, like a little bit past. Try and keep the back leg as straight as you can. Okay, you can always drop the knee. If you drop the knee, make that the choice. Hands can be at your hips. Hands can reach up. One of my favorites is bringing my hands behind my head and allowing the heart to open. Try not to arch the back too much to a point of pain. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Inhale, lengthen the crown of the head up. As you exhale, hover the chest. Bring your arms long behind you. Airplane arms. Stay grounded down through your right foot. Press into the big toe mound. You got this. One more breath in. Breath out. From here, as you inhale, shift your weight forward. Send the the left leg long out in front of you as you stand up. So coming into a one-legged Tadasana with a leg extension. Don't worry about how far the leg goes up. That's okay. I do ask that you place your left hand on your left thigh. Press the left hand into the left thigh. Press the left thigh into the hand. Breathe. Take baby pulses with the leg. 5. Keep pressing. 4, 3, 2. Inhale, draw the knee into your chest. As you exhale, come into a figure 4. Left ankle over, right thigh. Sit back as if you're sitting into a chair. Flex the foot to help protect the knee and working into the outer left glute. You can stay here. Maybe you sit up a little taller, arching the back. Maybe you bring your hands down to your thigh or your calf. Or maybe if it's in your practice, bring your hands down to the ground or to a block, folding forward. You take your variation. This is in an external rotation in the hip. Take one more breath in, breath out. Slowly, as you inhale, start to lift up. Keep the knee externally rotated and come into your tree pose. So maybe normally you bring your foot all the way up into your thigh, but right now just let it fall where it naturally wants to fall. We're staying with the external rotation of the left hip, and we're also working on hip stability in our right hip. So find one spot in front of you to gaze forward. Breathe. On your next inhale, just gently start to remove the foot from the leg, keep it externally rotated. And as you exhale, open up to a warrior 2. Step the foot back, right knee bends. Breathe. Right knee over left ankle. Again, just for a little bit of safety. Adjust the length of your stance as you need to. Core is still engaged, so draw the ribs together. Think about belly button just moving toward the spine. It doesn't want to live there, just maybe wants to get a little closer to its neighbor. Gaze out over the middle finger. Notice if you're holding tension in your jaw. Work it out. Breathe. How far do you want to take the shape tonight? Do you need to challenge yourself? Or you're like, nah, I need to come out of it a little bit. It's already been a challenging day. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, sink into your right foot, coming into a lunge at the back of the leg. So, I'm sorry, your left foot, back of the mat, folks. I don't know my left from my right. We'll figure it out together. Breathe. Inhale, open back up, warrior 2. Exhale, sink into your back leg. So we're gonna flow between that. Inhaling, warrior 2. Exhaling. If Skandasana is in your practice and you'd like to go a little lower, feel free to. Or again, feel free to ignore me and go, no thank you. We'll take a few more here. Move with your breath, nice and slow. We'll meet back in a warrior 2 as you're ready. Take a full breath in, full breath out. We're going to move our back leg into an internal rotation, so inhale, high lunge. Breathe. Sit a little deeper. We've been here before. Breath in, breath out. Inhale, chair pose. Sit low. Bring your hands to your heart center if you'd like. I'm gonna be real honest, lifting my arms up today feels like a lot of work. So draw them down. Bring the work into the legs. Sit the hips back. Think about stability here. Squeeze your glutes, squeeze your thighs. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Inhale, Tadasana, mountain pose. Pause. Find your breath. Regroup with it. Come back to why you came to your practice. Let that side go. It's already done. Take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Inhale, reach the arms long overhead. Exhale, bow forward, coming through a flat back. Inhale, lengthen, flat back. Weight of the hips over the ankles as you reach the crown of the head forward. Exhale, step your right foot back, drop the knee down. We're gonna come into Anjaneyasana on this side. So bring your hands to your thighs as you inhale. Really think about your right hip flexor here. Send your hips forward. So depending on how you've been sitting today, how you've been sitting all week, this might feel a little fun. I say fun in quotations. Breathe into it. Work with the body, not against it. So you may not go very far today. That's okay. And feel free to adjust the compression by using your hands to move the flesh away from the hip joint. We'll take one more breath here. Breath out. Keeping your hands on your thighs as you inhale and curled back toes, lift the knee, coming into your half high lunge. Hands can always come down to the ground for that support. Don't feel afraid to use what you got around you. Breathe here. Hands can stay here. Hands can come to heart center. Hands can lift. Hands can come behind the head. On hips, and you decide. Feel free to change it up if you like. 5 deep breaths. You've got this. Press the heel back. Straight through the back leg. Keep a slight micro bend in the back knee. 3. 2. Inhale, lengthen. As you exhale, hover the chest, bring the arms long behind you. We're going to pause here for 2 breaths. Then we'll come into our one-legged Tadasana with our right leg extended out long. So bring the weight into your left foot. And on your next inhale, lift up, send your right leg forward. Your right leg might lift a little higher off. That's okay. Breathe. Begin to bring your right hand to your right thigh. Press the hand into the leg into the hand. Feel that interaction between the two. Engage the muscle. Maybe pulses. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Inhale, draw the knee in. Exhale, figure 4. Go and take your figure 4 here. So think about stability in your left leg. Keep the hips pointed forward. Try and keep them level. So don't let one hip pop up. Keep them nice and level. You can stay here, sinking into the knee. Hands can come to the calf, whoops, or you can fold all the way down. Again, these are just options. You can get into an option and go, no, thank you. That doesn't work for me today. It's okay. Breathe here, 5 breaths. As you inhale, gently draw your knee up and bring it out to the side, tree pose. So try and avoid placing the foot directly on the knee, because as we press the leg into the foot and the foot into the leg, if it's on your knee, you could potentially maybe knock it out of place. That's bad. Try not to look at me at this moment. Find another spot in front of you as I am wobbling, a non-moving spot. Feel the stability in your left leg. Lift through the crown of the head. Feel the gentle pull of the energy from the earth as you draw the tailbone down. one more full breath here. Full breath out. Keeping the leg in external rotation. Inhale, lift the right leg up. Exhale, step it back, open up, warrior two. So this is focusing on the external rotation of your left hip. Open up the right hip out to the side, should roughly be pointed straight forward. Arms can come out and breathe. Soft gaze over the middle finger. Come back to your mantra. Again, find what the shape feels like today in your body. What do you need from it? Take one more breath in, breath out. Inhale, gently coming through center. Exhale, take your lunge on your other leg, your right leg. Inhale, lift up, warrior two. Exhale, calm down. Feel free to come into a full Skandasana if that is in your practice. If you were like me and you came to Skandasana on the other side and you're like, oh, too deep, guess what? You don't have to go that deep right now. Listen to your body. Take a few more on your own breath. Move with your breath. Finishing out where you're at. Wall meet in warrior two. That external rotation. Take your time to get there. Take one more full breath in here. Full breath out. Moving into internal rotation on the back leg. Inhale, high lunge. Breathe. Keep the weight evenly in the front foot. Press the heel back. Find your neutral spine. Inhale. Exhale. On your next inhale, chair pose, sit low. And your thighs might be burning right now. You got this. 5 more breaths. Weight into the hips. Sink them back. 5, 4, 3, 2. Take a breath in. Exhale, fold forward. Feet come hips width distance apart. On your next inhale, wrap peace fingers around big toes, setting up for Pada Ustasana. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bend the elbows out wide, bend the knees, fold forward. So pull up with the fingers, press down with the big toes, working to stretch out the back side of the body. Take one more breath here. Breath out. Inhale, find a flat back and slide your hands underneath your feet, Pada Hastasana. Do your best to work your toes towards your wrist creases. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Take a deep breath in here and a deep breath out. Inhale, find a flat back, release your bind. As you exhale, heel toe your feet out as wide as your mat. Toes pointed out. Breath in. Exhale, sink low. Malasana, yogi squat. So maybe you're like, oh, I don't need the props this time. I'm feeling a bit more open. Maybe you're like, no, my hips are tired. I need a little support. Again, blocks, pillow, blanket underneath the bum, perfectly acceptable. Totally use them. Or feel free to sit up a little bit more. This time, allow the elbows to press into the inner thighs, opening them up if that feels good. Do press evenly through the outer edges of both feet. And breathe. You got this. And a little smile. Sometimes a little smile can help us really get into the parasympathetic nervous system. But if smiling does not hold you today, that's cool. Just know that I'm happy we're here. I hope you are too. We'll take one more breath in, breath out. As you inhale, gently find your way down, all the way to the ground. Bring the soles of the feet to touch, coming into a gentle butterfly. So bring the legs out a little wider, if you'd like, more into a diamond shape, so nice and tall. And then as you exhale, roll forward. Just let everything hang loose. Feel free to place blocks underneath the knees. We'll be here for about 5 breaths. Inhale, slowly begin to lift yourself back up. And pause for a moment. So we're going to come into our yin shapes now. Hopefully feeling just a little bit looser in the body. Maybe even noticing where you still might be a little tight. Again, today's a hip focus. But if you're feeling tight in the shoulders or in the neck, that might be something just to note as well. So we're going to start with a dragon pose, which is very similar to Anjaneyasana that we did, except we're going to be holding it a little bit longer. This is where blocks can come in real handy here. So we will start on the left side, on our left foot. So we'll bring our left leg out nice and long, our left foot out in front of us, knee stacked over the ankle, and draw your right foot back. Keep the knee on the ground to start. Feel free to roll up the mat or place a blanket or a towel underneath it. We're not going to change the shape, so I'm going to offer 2 options, actually 3 options. Hands can be outside, framing the foot on the ground or on blocks. That's baby dragon. You can bring your hands inside or draw down to your forearms, whether that's on a block or on the ground for dragon flying low. You'd like a twisted dragon. What you'll do here is you'll start to roll onto the outer edge of the foot, turning out the knee. So your hip, knee, and foot are all in one line, so you might need to turn the toes out a little bit more. Okay? And these are all options. These are your variations. Feel free to bring your hands to a block, or if you're taking twisted dragon, hand can come to the inner thigh. Find your breath. In 2 minutes, so we're opening up the outer edge of the hip, outside of the hip, and also hopefully working into our right hip flexor, that nice long spot that we don't spend a lot of time on mostly. Breathe. 2 minutes. I'm going to leave you in silence. Come back to your breath. Come back to your mantra. About 30 seconds left. Take a full breath in and out. You're going to stack the next shape right on top of this one. You have two options. The first option is to work the left foot toward the right side of your mat, coming into sleeping swan. So the knee and the ankle will be at a diagonal or roughly in line. Toes reaching toward the right wrist. Your back leg is going to stay nice and straight as it was. Keep the back toes pointed directly out. You can stay lifted, or you can begin to come down for your sleeping swan. If you find that your left hip is lifting up, forcing you to almost dump into your right hip, consider placing a blanket underneath that or block. If you find yourself dumping into the left hip, you might want to do the same thing, or even place the blanket or block underneath the right thigh. That's option one. And again, that's really important. You want to protect your knee there. Option two is going to be fire log. So our right leg will remain on the bottom. Our left leg is going to stack on top, knees on top of ankle. It's like flex in the foot. The only difference here is that we're not working into the front side of the leg. It's going to be primarily focused on the outer edge of the hip. You decide what you need, what's going to feel best and comfortable for you in your body. You can stay here, or you can fold forward. We're going to be here for about 3 minutes. Take your shape. Take a couple of breaths to settle in. Allow the body to slowly release into the shape. You don't have to force it. Just take your time, breathe. This is where our mantra can help. Remember, this is not about being perfect. There's no such thing. It's about listening to your body in this moment and honoring where it's at. It's okay if you're like, it's not as deep as I normally go. Great. That's where you're meant to be. Let me tell you something. There's no deep as I'm normally supposed to. It just is. I'll leave you in silence for the next bit. I'll bring you out of it. Settle in. Take a deep, slow breath in and a deep, slow breath out. So gently begin to come out of the shape you've chosen. And depending on where you're at, you might want to take some gentle movement, maybe some counter poses. Always bring your hands behind you to lift up the chest. Depending on the hips, you might bring the knee in. Sometimes cradling it like a baby can help. Maybe not. And it's all up to you. Take what feels good. And breathe. Whatever movement you decide to take, let it be mindful. And find somewhere to pause. Doesn't matter where this pause is at right now. Just find somewhere to pause. Let the body fall into what shape it wants to fall into. Let everything relax. Go ahead and let the spine slump. Let your whole body become like a blob. Become internal. What do you notice? How do you feel? Check in here. No matter where you're at in this moment, send yourself a little bit more love and compassion. Remember that this is about you and what you need right now. And as you're ready, we're going to switch to the other side. So we're going to come into our right leg. In yin practice, we do tend to start on our left. You may have noticed that. If we do the other side, that's okay. Just make sure you switch sides. We start on our left side because that's considered more of the passive side of the body. It's where our moon energy resides. So it tends to be more of our calming energy. So as we come into this shape here, we're going to come into our dragon. Again, baby dragon, hands on the ground, framing the foot or on blocks. For dragon flying low, hands inside the foot, on the ground or on blocks, and you can always come down to the elbows, or a twisted dragon. Work the toes out to the outer edge of the mat, come onto the outer edge of the foot. Breathe here. We've got 2 minutes. About 30 seconds left. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. We're going to stack the next shape so you can come into your swan pose by drawing your right foot towards your left wrist. Allowing you to open up. Back leg can be nice and straight. And use the props you need to. Prop anything underneath this hip or underneath the the left hip flexor. Stay lifter folds forward into sleeping swan. Always the option to come into fire log here, remembering that one of the big differences is that this is just fire log is just primarily going to be focusing on the outer edge of the hip, on the outer edge, the outside of the hip, and not so much the front hip flexor, but you decide. Breathe. We'll be here for 3 minutes. Deep, slow breath in, and a deep, slow breath out. Just gently come up. What movement feels good? And then once again, find your place of stillness. Whether that's in the seated position on your back, on your belly, just take a moment to notice how you feel. Check back in. Are you able to let go of something that you're holding on to that isn't serving you? Are you able to breathe a little deeper? Maybe you're able to think a little bit more clearly. Maybe none of the above, and that's okay too. Gently blink open the eyes. We're going to come into frog pose next. I'm going to talk through 3 variations. Again, meet your body where it's at. Think of this as like a bus stop. We'll roughly all get on at the same spot. We're definitely not getting on off at the same spot. So work with that. So for frog pose, the first variation can be known as tadpole. So it's very similar to our wide-legged child pose. So keeping the soles of the big toes to touch, knees out as wide as the mat. Sit the hips back. Bring your arms forward. Whereas in our wide-legged child's pose, we were activating the arms a little bit. Let the arms release and relax. Chin can be on the mat, or you can bring your forehead on the mat as well. Feel free to prop up a blanket or a pillow underneath the hips here if you'd like, or even underneath the knees. So that's tadpole. Moving frog into teenagehood, you're going to slowly shift the hips above the knees, work your hands out a little bit. Kind of keep this, the feet touching as best they can. Sit your hips back. Okay? So that's option 2. Option 3 is a deeper variation of frog pose. And I do recommend doing this on the long edge of your mat. I'll demonstrate it on the side. From here, you'll bring your knees out to the edges of the mat, working the big toes to touch on the ground. Hips are going to be coming out directly with the knees. This could be a great place, for your pillow and maybe a couple of blocks here to act as a bolster if you don't have one. Your chest will rest on this. As we open up our legs out to the side, we're going to feel the stretch on the inside of the legs, but we'll work into the mobility of the external rotation. Lower down if that feels good. Breathe here. Feel free to place anything you need underneath the ankles as well. We're going to be here for 3 minutes. Let's make that 4 minutes. My bad, please excuse me. Breathe into the shape. So the deeper the variations you've taken, the more you'll likely feel that on the inside of the leg. Oftentimes when we feel tension in one part of the body, we also need to stretch out the opposite part of it to help truly find the opening. But listen to where you're at. Take it where you need it and breathe. About halfway through, if you have one cheek on the mat, go ahead and switch it over to the other cheek. If you've already been flipping it back and forth, that's fine. Let's continue to do so mindfully, gently, and slowly. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Gently begin to lift yourself out of whatever variation you've taken. Knowing moans and groans, perfectly acceptable. That's okay. Take whatever movement feels good to you in your body, whatever you need. If you're chilly, maybe grab a sweater, because yin does tend to cool down the body. Breathing here. Take your time, no rush. We're going to move on to our backs when you're ready. So join us whenever you feel set to do so. Come into an IT band stretch. So just one final stretch for the outside of the leg, the outer edge of the leg. Bring the knees up to the ceiling. Press the feet into the mat. They might want to be about hips width distance apart. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring your right ankle or your left ankle over your thigh. You decide. If you're a little bit more active, you need to stretch that out first, then use your right. If you're like, I'm into the passive side of my body and that's where I'm at, then use your left. Now, if we were coming into a reclined swan, we would draw the left knee into the chest, but we're not going to do that. With our right ankle or our left ankle over the opposite thigh, you're going to let everything fall to the side here. Let the knee open up, fall to the side. And breathe. With your left foot or your whatever foot's on the bottom, you may bring it a little closer to you to feel that in the outer edge of the hip. Maybe you feel it on the front side of the hip. Always feel free to place a block underneath that as well, underneath any of the knees that you need to. We're just going to be here for 2 minutes on each side. Feel free to extend the arms out nice and long. And as you're ready, gently bring your knees back on up through center. And we'll switch sides to the opposite leg. This time, let the knees drop. Feel free to place blocks underneath the knees. Maybe even draw the bottom ankle a little closer to you. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. You're ready to bring your knees back up through center. Take any final movements you need before releasing into Savasana, final resting. Take up as much real estate in the room that you're in on the mat as you'd like. Let everything feel heavy on the earth. Go with the effort. Let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Breathing here. Let rest be the only goal. Not worrying about what's yet to come or what is past. Begin to reawaken the senses, inviting gentle movement back into the body, observing the natural flow of the breath, taking your time as you're ready, finding your way to a comfortable seat. No rush to get there. If you need longer in Savasana, stay there. Take as much time as you need. As we pause here in our easy seat, the moment to acknowledge yourself, sending gratitude towards showing up to your mat tonight, and letting go of this thing that we call perfection. Just letting yourself be where you're at and finding joy in all that is. And take a moment here to send gratitude to those who joined us tonight to form this virtual community in this virtual space. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. Thank you all so much for joining me this evening. I hope you have a fantastic, fantastic rest to your Friday and a very wonderful weekend. Again, I'm truly blessed that you chose to spend your time with me. So hi to Leah, hi to Mama Andrea and Papa Jim. And if I missed anybody, just shoot me a note, let me know you were here. But I'm so grateful for you all. Have a great evening.